Well, I like having a SIP because I'm not sure I trust other people to invest for me. I like to be able to do it myself, and if I make a mistake, then I'll pay for that myself. And I like to be in charge of monitoring market timing myself and deciding when to get in and when to get out.
Because I suppose I like to manage my investment myself, especially for my pension fund. But not all of my pension fund is in SIP, in SIPs.
The benefits for us of a SIP are that we can control the income we get from it. It keeps us going. We get several reviews. If, heaven forbid, my partner should die, then we don't lose the fund. It remains as part of her estate. This to us is all the advantages of keeping a income drawdown which is run as a SIP.
Hello and welcome to Stocktalk, Self-Trade's regular programme discussing investments, markets and financial planning. This edition considers self-invested personal pensions, SIPs, and asks what are they, how can they be used, and for whom are they suitable. SIPs are pensions whose assets you manage and control yourself. And they're not as new as you might think. In fact, Chancellor Nigel Lawson introduced them in the same budget as PEPs back in 1989. But they were something of a minority pursuit until recent years, as high costs meant they were the preserve of only the wealthy. Online brokers such as Self-Trade changed that, making them accessible and cost-effective. And there's another reason why SIPs have become popular. The rapid demise of the final salary pension scheme has meant that more people than ever have decided to take control of the retirement planning. Elsewhere, group personal pension employer schemes have started using the SIP as part of company benefits, allowing for administration costs to be shared. And parents have recognised the longer-term benefits of giving their children a head start with child SIPs. There's plenty you'll need to know if you're thinking about starting and getting the most out of a SIP, and this programme is designed to help you do just that. Over the next few minutes, we'll be talking to European Pension Management's Francis Moore and giving you our SIP insight. But first, here's our quick introduction to self-invested personal pensions. SIPs are pensions you control yourself, choosing the investments and deciding when you buy and sell. They operate under the same rules as any personal pension, but they give you the flexibility and control. What does that mean in terms of contribution and tax relief? Where can you invest once the SIP is open? And indeed, how do you set up a SIP? SIPs are subject to both contribution and lifetime allowances. Annual contribution allowance started at £215,000 in 2006 and are indexed annually to an announced £255,000 in 2010. The statutory lifetime allowance started at £1.5 million and is also indexed annually to £1.8 million over the same period. What makes pensions such an attractive long-term investment vehicle is their tax efficiency. Contributions to your SIP enjoy tax relief at your marginal rate, and you pay no additional income or capital gains tax on assets in the scheme. If you have a group scheme, your employer can contribute gross payments to the SIP which qualify as deductible business expenses. The big story of SIPs is the choice of investments, a choice over what to invest in and crucially when. You make the decision on market timing and can buy and sell at will. Stockbrokers such as Self-Trade offer access to a wide range of financial instruments to cater for the needs of active and passive investors alike. The choice includes UK shares including AIM and Plus markets, overseas shares from 18 international markets, investment trusts, exchange-traded funds, unit trusts and OICs, REITs, gilts and corporate bonds, covered warrants, listed CFDs and listed structured products, structured notes and Self-Trade's own fund packages. So, how do you set up a SIP? Well, you'll need a trustee and administrator, usually one in the same entity, a stockbroker, and you, the member. The administrator runs the pension, while the trustee acts as the legal owner of the SIP assets. As the member, you are the beneficial owner of the pension, you're entitled to the benefits, and are granted control over investment decisions. Your friendly broker Self-Trade holds the stocks and shares in the fund and provides you with a professional dealing platform. Self-Trade works with around 60 different SIP administrators, including all the major players. So, SIPs are tax efficient and flexible, giving access to a wide range of instruments. For the real detail on the product, we talked to head of one of those trustee administrators, Francis Moore, of European Pensions Management, who established the first SIP back in 1990. I started by asking him, what's all the fuss about?
Over recent years, SIPs and pensions have been almost constantly in the press, whether it's down to people concerned about the viability of their final salary schemes, issues about transparency of charging, with profit funds and with insurance company funds. Equitable life, going back a few years, was a major driver for people's concerns. And then in the last few years, we've had all the speculation with simplification about the increased opportunities that could be taken up in investments. And in particular, there was a tremendous amount of coverage about the possibility of buying residential property, buy-to-lets, holiday villas, etc. And whilst the Chancellor did a major U-turn on that, it really did heighten interest in personal pensions.
So what does the trustee and administrator actually do?
Well, essentially there are two separate roles. The trustee's responsibility is to actually look after the assets of the pension scheme. They're the legal owner. They take care of the assets until the benefits are actually paid out, looking after things like the investments and the corporate actions. Now, that's not to say that the trustee actually carries out the trades, and in fact, one of the key advantages of SIPs is the ability of the trustee to actually delegate that function and to allow members to actually do their own dealing with execution stockbrokers, such as self-trade.
How does the tax reclaim work?
The tax reclaim process works on the basis that if a member pays a contribution, they pay at the basic rate of tax. In the current year, that's 22%. In future years, it's going to be 20%. And essentially, they deduct that from their gross contribution. We then have a monthly reclaim process, and it takes about 5 to 11 weeks to recover that tax. In terms of members who are at the higher rate band, the 40% band, then they then apply through either self-assessment or direct to their Inspector of Taxes and can then actually reclaim the higher rate band of tax directly from the inspector. The only disadvantage about that is that you can't get all of that tax into your SIP. But it is a tremendous tax break.
So what about people who are already in a company pension scheme?
Well, one of the things about SIPs until recently, with the introduction of simplification, was that you were either in a company pension scheme or you were in a personal scheme. And there was what we call very limited concurrency. Since the new regulations have come in, that's all been swept away. And I think that's important for two reasons. One, there are very good company schemes out there, and it shouldn't be a question of saying, well, company or personal. And the key thing since the regulations changed is the ability for people to make additional voluntary contributions or additional contributions to the SIP as against having to put them into an AVC plan or a freestanding AVC plan with the company scheme. Because obviously with the SIP, you've got access to a far greater investment range. And increasingly what we're seeing is people either with bonuses or with plenty of spare slack in terms of what they can contribute, because generally company schemes, if they're not final salary, are going to be on a money purchase basis, they're going to be on a percentage of salary, that now with the new contribution flexibility, there's real scope to make extra contributions, put those into a SIP, and have the opportunity to generate your own better returns from the myriad of funds outside of what might be provided through the company scheme.
And back to the other end of the scale, how easy is it to open up a child SIP, for instance?
Very easy. Basically, it's as simple as the parent or grandparent completing one of the application forms and paying in the contribution, which, if they're being a generous parent or grandparent, will be currently £2,808. And we then collect the tax relief of £792, and there the SIP is open. At the same time, an investment account can be opened, a stockbroking account can be opened with self-trade, and the parent or grandparent can then deal on that account for the benefit of the child until they reach 18, at which time they then take full responsibility. But as I was saying earlier, the figures in terms of the returns that can be generated by starting very early with an infant, and I can certainly speak for myself because my son was actually the first minor ever to take out a SIP in April 2001, and he's already benefiting from the value that we've been able to put in and the investment performance that we've been able to gear for him.
So we've learned about how SIPs work and some of the benefits. It's time for the Stock Talk Insight.
Your SIP investment strategy will depend on various things, including how much time you can devote to managing your portfolio, attitude to risk, and crucially, length of time until retirement. With 30 years or so until retirement, you will probably be diversified but weighted in favour of shares or funds. With 20 years to go, you might start introducing fixed interest bonds, gaining exposure to property, or even using structured notes to lock in gains. With just 10 years left, it's probably time to reduce the risk, increasing exposure to bonds. SIPs are great for giving children a head start in life. You can make contributions for a child of up to £3,600 per year gross. This means that you pay in £2,800 and the revenue tops up the rest in tax relief. And the magic of compound interest means that if you save this amount each year, assuming a 7% annual growth rate, at 18 your child might have a SIP worth £130,000. That's pretty good, but it doesn't stop there. Contribute nothing else but allow the assets to grow until retirement at 60, and your child's SIP could be worth some £2.2 million. For more passive investors without the time or inclination to monitor their investments regularly, but who still wish to retain control, there are alternatives. Self-Trade's regular investment service is one such option. These are modules designed to meet broad lifestyle objectives such as balanced growth or income. They asset allocate and package funds selected to meet the broad criteria and complement each other. Another option is to build a portfolio using exchange-traded funds. ETFs are stock exchange listed funds which track the performance of a wide range of indices and commodities. They represent a very cost-effective way of creating a diversified portfolio. We will look at ETFs more closely in another programme.
Well, that's it from this edition of Stock Talk, and I hope you found it useful. If you'd like more information or a copy of Self-Trade's brochure, call customer services will be happy to help. And if there's any topics you'd like covered by the programme, email me at the address on the screen. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.